everybody, and welcome to the Happiness Discipline Podcast. I am your host, Sean Greenspan, and I am very excited to have Divakar with us today. I recently became friends with Divakar, and I was reviewing his course, Tax as Profits. And as I was going through it, it's so interesting how the first few modules had nothing to do with tax and only had to do with lifestyle design, purpose, and happiness. And this is when I knew I wanted to interview Divakar for the podcast, and I wanted to stick around for what he's saying, because here we believe that anything that you focus on is just a channel to your spirituality. And I'm seeing that in Divakar's work. Divakar has traveled and lived in many countries, and he started business in many more countries. And going through that process, he's realized that to be successful at business, he's had to learn the tax code. And he actually has some very contrarian views on tax, which again was a reason I wanted to interview him, because I like seeing people that think differently. One of the things that stood out to me the most was when he said, if you don't like the tax code, you probably haven't read the tax code. And I realized that because I'm sitting here complaining that I'm earning more and paying more in taxes, and I don't like the tax code, but I've never even read it. I've never even seen it, bought it, attempted to read it, right? I'm just taking the assumptions and the lifestyle that everybody else is doing and just not thinking differently like Divakar is. So we'll stay a little bit away from taxes, but we'll jump in a little there. But most excited about talking with someone who thinks differently and challenges the norm. So Divakar, I'm very, very grateful to have you here today.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me around, and looking forward to an interesting conversation as always.
Yeah. Well, I want to start with what we talked about pre-show a little bit and understand what your view on habits are and how they relate to podcasts. Because you said you might have a contrarian view on that.
No, I mean, we always look at habits as something good. If you were to just go back to how the human mind has evolved and how it thinks, habits are something which we repeatedly do. And at times we also equate it to the foundation for mastery in life, right? I mean, I remember reading Charlie Munger's take on wisdom, and where he talks about habits alter DNA. And that's fairly powerful. But one of the most interesting insights which I've evolved over reading certain scriptures, habits, if you stick to them beyond their shelf life, can be detrimental. So the ability to even evolve habits and letting go of the past is far more critical than emphasizing the need for our habits. Yes, that's foundational, right? That gets you a step into the door. But that's not going to accelerate your journey. It'll set you on the path. But to really travel, the need to let go of habits and the need to embrace newer habits consistently. Because one challenge with habits is longevity becomes, a cornerstone in habits. I would put relevance to be the real reason for habits. And if that relevance becomes the foundation for the need for habits and evolution, I think that would do a lot of good, because willpower is a foundation, but consistently challenging as you evolve the need for habits will, I believe that's my take on habits, Sean, if it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. That anything in excess, cannot be good, or anything that's not relevant, right? As you put. I've actually found that in my own life, at the same point, coincidentally, I started my business, which starting a business takes a lot of willpower, a lot of grit. You have to fill out legal forms and boring financial forms and get set up all the stuff that has nothing to even do with the business. And then at the same time, I also chose to become an ultra marathon runner, which is a low skill, high grit activity. now in the last 2 years, I've stopped being an ultramarathon runner, and my business is at a place where it's big enough that it needs me to not just try to push, but step back and design. But I realize I wake up every day and I want to push. Like that's what's in my, I want to try to get things done. Similar with my fitness journey, I think fitness is the foundation of health and happiness, I believe. And I've changed my way. I haven't stepped back from fitness, but I make my fitness more playful now. So a lot more sports and hiking, a lot less, training. But yet I find that my mind and my energy is not always in that flow state. And sometimes it wants to be in the like grind state. So I see what you're saying, that, maybe I should look at that mental habit of grinding and looking at how to overcome that.
No, because the emphasis on, fitness being a function of body is, at least in my view, is overrated. Because body is just a piece of attire the soul wears over its long journey of existence. So, body should enable ascendance in life, and body is not the destiny or the purpose. So the more we start to look at, look beyond the sensual aspects of life. I mean, there is, fortunately or unfortunately, we speak about psychology, we speak about philosophy, we never speak about metaphysics. One of the most important aspects of human, which religion, almost every religion in the world comes from that premise, but in the garb of trying to be much more accessible, they have distilled it beyond beyond essential, you can say. I mean, and that's where you spoke about grind, you spoke about ultramarathon. All these are your foundations to build willpower, foundations to build grit. But over time, the sensory pleasure we start to get by finishing a marathon, or I play tennis, by winning a tennis match, by being aggressive on the court, by getting a smash right, that opioid in the brain makes it addictive. And coming out of that not takes another set of grit, it takes understanding, right? What matters to us and how we are actually wired. I think that's a different journey of learning by itself. And when mankind gets into that spiritual journey, spirituality is not abstract or vague or being mystical. It's purely focusing your searchlight out from outward facing to inward facing. You'll be fascinated about the dimensions of insights you will uncover just by looking inside yourself. And the fact that you've moved from ultra marathon as a first phase of signs of moving in the right direction, I believe.
Yeah. I think that's beautifully put, to say spirituality is just changing from looking outside to inside.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In my current role, I have 20 employees that report to me, and I'm trying to create a culture, a family. This is it's more than business, right? Like I want to be a mentor to these people. And I had someone come to me that said, they were feeling unmotivated. And it was funny because they were like, and I want to talk to you because I was kind of thinking about moving on. Now, I've had my company for 6 years and nobody's ever quit, Divakar. That's something I'm really proud of. And I asked them, I said, look, this is Sean, your friend, right? Not Sean, the boss. Do you think just changing something on the outside is going to change what you're feeling on the inside? And we talked about that for a while, and they decided to stay, right? Because the different job might be distracting for a little bit, but it's not going to solve anything, that's going on the inside. I have a question. How do you practice looking at what's on the inside versus the outside?
No, I think Looking inside is all about. So there is a process. There are multiple journeys to view inside, right? I think I firmly believe meditation is by far the most uh, definitive path to seeking inside, seeking answers inside. And there is a science to it. There's an absolute science to it. If you look at the three layers of education, this is something which I tell my kids as well, right? In terms of understanding people is psychology. That's a base case of existence. I mean, without knowing human beings, you can't live in a society of human beings. That's the first stage. Second phase is understanding nature, what you call as philosophy. Right? Ultimately, you try to derive universal principles. And the last phase of understanding is understanding creation. That's metaphysics. That's why the guys who've actually understood that go on to build large organizations. You see Bezos, or why was Facebook named Meta? Right? Metaphysics is beyond physics, where the laws of nature do not apply. Because laws of creation and laws of nature are very different. And we'll be fascinated to understand what applies to us is not laws of nature. It is not laws of psychology. It is laws of creation. And for that, you should look inward into your soul, because soul is the only dimension of every human being which can embrace the laws of creation. The body is just physical, right? It's a sensual piece of existence. What applies to laws of nature will apply to your body. But what applies to laws of creation will apply to your soul. And for that, you need to learn to look inward. And one of the most definitive journeys in that space is meditation, deep meditation. And it's not just closing your eyes and sitting quiet. Meditation is a process. It's not sitting quiet. It's communing with yourself through vibration, getting aligned with nature, with the larger cosmos through vibration and energy. So when you get to that zone, you'll be fascinated, because there is very little which someone can share. And unlike any other body of knowledge, metaphysics is not something which can be taught. It needs to be experienced. And that's the ultimate truth. I mean, someone starts in that process, every day is a day of revelation, you can say.
I don't hear a lot of people talking about metaphysics, as you mentioned in the beginning.
Aristotle spoke about it. And when I first read his book almost 10 years back, I couldn't go beyond the first 20, 30 pages. But yes, there was a book which changed my life, the autobiography of a yogi. I got that book as a gift 3 times, but I just couldn't open it. Maybe I wasn't prepared. That's why in yoga we say, when the student is ready, the teacher finds you. But once and I was fascinated when I read. I did some digging. That was a book which Steve Jobs had I think in iPod, the audiobook, the first audiobook, he gifted it to everybody. I was like fascinated to see what kind of reach it's had. It's changed. And his version of Bhagavad Gita, where he clearly puts to rest that there's nothing religious. It's a fight between the good and the evil. The buddhi and the, what we call, the buddhi is intelligence, not intellect. Intellect is overrated versus senses. I mean, it's fascinating because that battle is happening inside our own body, inside our own mind every second of the day. Yes, I think this is one of my larger purposes of life, where people start to realize and appreciate the laws of creation. Then you will really enjoy, or, you will really know where to spend your time on in life. A lot of these menial things, you'll know that there's like a mosquito sitting on. I mean, you don't care whether an ant is moving by the side or a mosquito. It's because it's trivial, right? That's how a large part of our own current day activities which occupy our mind space will start to realize how trivial they are.
I got like a a little shocked when you said it because I just started that book last night.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
fascinating. Get into it. Don't read it. Just assimilate it. Right? You can do it as slowly as possible. I would appreciate you watching the movie. I think there is this film called Awake, which is Paramahamsa's movie. It's on Amazon Prime. Watch it peacefully. I mean, a lot of it you'll connect if the book has found you, then you're prepared.
Mm.
If you've started reading, then you're ready. I think the journey will
Thank you.
start. No, I mean, knowledge doesn't find you. You need to attract it.
Yeah.
Right? No, if it's found you, you're prepared.
So I had a really interesting experience growing up. Clear as day, I was maybe 10 years old, and I remember hanging out with my dad, and my brother was getting really upset about something, really upset, yelling, screaming. They were arguing. And I remember we went to bed, and I woke up the next day, and I ran into my dad's room, and I like touched his face to wake him up, right? Opened his eyes. I said, "Dad, I've been thinking about something. I was up like the whole night." And he goes, "What is it?" And I said, "I think that nothing matters in life." And he got like solemn, like he thought it was like a depressed comment. And he's like, "Sean, don't say that. Like everything matters, like the opposite," which actually nothing matters and everything matters is saying the same thing. And what I realized was like, my brother was getting so upset about something that it never mattered. Right. And I have another memory of, writing a story in second grade about how I wished the world had no money, right? So no one had to focus on money and everyone just focused on like love and other things because like money's a distraction. And I'm fast forward, something that I do like about, ultra marathons or, spending a lot of time, a week at a time camping and just living out of a backpack is it disassociates you from material things, right? It's fine to go chase material things as long as that's not like there's no like major emotional attachment, right? Because we have to spend our time doing something. I think it's great to create, and create in the material world. I think it's the emotion that we have to that and understanding that, like nothing physical matters that much like that. I think that's like a good place to start. You were talking about like philosophy. I mean, I'm sorry. Psychology is like understanding like people and things, I would say too, right? Like, nothing physical can matter that much. And I feel very confident in my journey that I've dissociated from knowing what matters and what doesn't. Knowing what doesn't matter. I find myself at a point where I'm a little lost in knowing what does matter, and that's my current spiritual, the position of my current spiritual journey.
Yeah, I think you use some interesting words, right? I think the answer to what you just said is available in your own words. To your question, what you're seeking for. You use the word money, you use creation, you use matter, you use physical world, physical, right? Let's break these words down. I believe you will end up getting what you spoke about, a world without matter, without money. Now, what is money? At the deepest level, that's when you bring it down, right? We are in US, the mecca of capitalism. Now, there are many stocks. If you were to look at the stock exchange, there is a company which does not make any profits and it's trading at, say, 100x revenue. It's just making 10 million revenue. Today I was on a call with the founder. His business made about is doing 20 million in annual revenue. He's already raised to 150, 180 million in venture capital across multiple rounds. Now, at the highest level, when people start believing certain stocks have potential, the value goes up. Okay. Now, if I were to, I'm just giving you two abstract examples for you to bring it down to solving your problem. If I were to hire someone to mow my lawns, and I pay that gentleman $50 an hour, right? That person will come and work for $50. He'll spend an hour clearing out the lawn. What is he doing in that 1 hour? What is he expending in that 1 hour? To mow the lawn. What does it take from his side to mow the lawn? It's a question to you, Sean.
His time, his energy.
Let's talk there. Energy. So ultimately, money is energy. We wanted to bring in a metric or a medium to trade energies. Now, why does it matter? Right? In this question, why does it matter? So what is matter? That's where the real question comes. Whatever you see in the physical world, or you use the word material world, it's something which is made up of matter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you look at something in the physical world, let's say if I'm able to see this cup, it is only because this is proven by physics. My eyes or my body and this cup, the particles in this cup are vibrating at the same frequency. If whatever is solid, if it starts to vibrate at a different frequency, it won't be in this shape. It'll be a different body of existence. And when you break down at the simplest level, every atom, almost 99% of every atom is only energy.
Mm.
There is nothing physical in an atom. So what you actually see is illusion. What you see in front of your own eyes is a perception of energy vibrating at a very specific frequency. To put it down, that's all we see. And you also used a very interesting term, emotion, in your statement. Now, what is emotion?
Energy in motion.
Exactly. That's it. It's energy in motion. So the sum and substance, the cause and consequence, physics says energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can always be attracted. So which is why people use these words manifestation, positive thinking, affirmations. All these are different ways of attracting what you want. So energy can always be attracted. That's why attention plus intention is transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So this is typically the paradigm of the world we exist. Everything else is just rearranging the energy quotients. So whether you call it money or you call it something else, it is ultimately energy which we are looking at. Let's look at what is dollar? What is the generic term for that, for dollar or
Currency?
currency, right? Exactly. What do you mean by currency?
Currency. Like how much energy, how much energy something represents?
You go back, right? It comes from the Latin word currere. And currere means flow. Anything which enables flow is currency. Period. That's why you say currents of a river. Right?
The current of a river. Yeah.
Anything which enables flow is currency. So and to flow, you need energy. That's the core of every dimension of human existence. And once you understand that, see what is the social media, right? It's attention management game. So attention is energy. If you are able to grasp someone's attention for a period of time, you're able to get energy from them. That's your currency. For an influencer, the currency is attention. For a child, the mother's voice is currency. It gives them happiness, right? What creates that flow? For someone, it could be books. For someone, it could be tennis. For you, it could be ultra marathon. It need not be necessarily in money terms, right? So digging back, the core of human existence is energy. And energy, the beauty about energy is you can attract it. You don't need to chase energy. You just need to attract energy. You can get it from where you are.
You gave me a lot to think about there, Divakar. That's beautiful. I know you see my eyes looking around the room. I'm looking at everything as an illusion now. Let me try to regurgitate what I heard there. I think it starts with like, what's our source of, you know, I don't want to use the word energy, but like, what is our source of like oomph, right? And that is energy.
Creation, right? Source of creation, when you look at it.
Yeah. And that is energy. And you know, anything that, like, you're almost relating like anything physical, right, is an illusion.
Absolutely.
Because, and you know, I've actually studied that pretty deep with, you know, quantum physics, right? And the observer effect is kind of what you were talking about, as the cup, you know, showing up when you see it. So if everything is an illusion, you know, we need to understand, you know, what, I guess it's not that it's an illusion. It's that the summary would be that everything is energy, right? So it's all attractable. It's all interchangeable in ways, right? And that might change. Like, you don't need to go get energy. Like, you can't go get any energy anywhere, right? You attract it, you vibrate on its same frequency.
So that's why in ancient India, all the rulers were sages. They were saints. If you interact with a saint, the saint never leaves his cave. But a saint can get whatever he wants sitting where he is, because it's you keep building your horsepower, where you keep, when you say building, you keep cleansing your soul, because the biggest contamination for our soul is our mind. Mind clouds the soul. It's just imagine, right? You are like, soul connects. You will be able to soul connects with the cosmos in silence, and mind is anti-silent. Even if you're just sitting quiet and observe your mind, there are a zillion thoughts which keeps running. So the ability to focus, that's where the difference between concentration and meditation happens. I can keep talking on this, but since you spoke about everything is an illusion, we use this concept called phenomenon, right?
Yep.
So this is a phenomena. This is phenomenal. And there is this opposite to phenomenon. It's called noumenon. That's phenomenon is your interpretation of reality. That's an illusion. Noumenon is a reality. It's truth. And you can never explain truth. You can only become truth.
Yeah.
So, which is why it's never spoken about. So, the real source of connecting to the larger purpose of existence, we're all reflections of a larger ray of light. Well, what we call as creation, we call it God. Every different religions have their own versions of calling. And one thing very interesting about the Abrahamic religions is, whether it's Noah or Jesus or Prophet Muhammad, they're all messengers of God, right? There is this Holy Spirit, Father and a Son and Father. That's the journey and that's actually the truth. The Holy Spirit is your own soul. You connect with your soul to the cosmos through the sun, what they call in Sanskrit, we say Om Tat Sat, right? Om is the cosmic vibration which vibrates inside your own self. It's called as Christianity calls it as Amen. Islam calls it as Amin. It's the same. It's ultimately the larger vibration which you experience. We all vibrate at that level. There is and when you meditate deeply, you will start feeling that vibration in your body. And that's the journey. That's the first phase of realization that we're all not even particles. We're just we're just bundles of energy wrapped up in a case, what we call as body. Because imagine a dead body, if you just feed in food and oxygen, is not going to come to life.
Yeah.
Right? So what is it that beyond the physical matter which gives light? And that's where you go to prana, and that's a complete journey of conversation. I mean, I can talk for days on that. I don't want to get in that dimension and ostracize your audience, but yes, that's where this would eventually lead to.
It's beautiful how well studied you are on this. It's really clearly a priority for you. And, part of the reason I started the podcast was to explore these opportunities with people like yourself. I actually would like to talk about now how all this relates to taxes, right? Which is funny because, you probably haven't had someone say, interview you about not taxes in a while, right? Mm-hmm. And specifically, you're feeling this deep energy and this deep vibration, right? That's who you really are. Like that is you, right? That's your soul. And again, what stuck out with me from the beginning was when I took your course, it's that you don't do anything without understanding who that person is, who you are, and making sure that your actions are in line with that. And I think that comes from you being a person with a very still mind, which I agree with you. I think the mind is basically the only thing that gets in the way of maybe the mind and the body are the only things that get in the way of our, us knowing who we are. Please talk to me about how you align, and it's not actually about taxes. It's about anything that you're doing in this physical, interpersonal world, and how you align that with your frequency.
See, I think just to get back, Sean, on this, we've got 8 energy chakras in the body. That's right. 7 or 8, based on what you call it. Disease, if you break the term disease, it is dis-ease. Okay. When you are not at ease, what we call dis-ease, comes when these energy chakras are not aligned. Now, the same thing happens with any system of existence. This does not apply to not only your human body. It applies to what you do. It applies to what you read. It applies to how you look at a system. Whether we like it or not, we are all part of a larger system, at least in the material world. Every nation has its own. Whether if I'm in the Middle East, there is a different system there. I've lived in 7 countries, and each of these countries have had their own systems. And except for the first 2, where I sat in judgment to say whether it is right or wrong, beyond that, it was all about understanding the system. In the next 2, 3, and then the last 2, 3 was all about aligning with the system. Then you realize, yes, every system has a specific language they use. So alignment is the first lever to remove friction in life. Any dimension. Whatever I'm talking is not only around tax, these are all universal truths, or at least experienced truths. So when someone comes to me for tax, right, the first question people come and, how do I pay the lowest? Now, would you even want the lowest tax rate? Now, if you want to buy a car, you don't go to a showroom and say, give me the cheapest car. I'm not saying that is wrong. Would you want the cheapest car? That's a question. Now, 9 out of 10 times people don't have an answer for this. So then the question comes, every engagement, every structuring engagement with us has 6 calls. The first 2 calls is only about doing 2 things. First, of course, we get the fact sheet. Most important, we ask our clients to draft their vision of their life. That can only be done by them. We take them through a process of making them answer their own vision of life. And then comes the most important value addition I believe we ever do in a client journey. It's not about saving taxes. We ask them what matters to them most. So I want to set up a foundation. I want my kids to go study in Australia. I want to have a home in London. I want to do this in Greece. You put all your vision. Then write down. Then the next question we ask is, what matters to you? So many a times people will say, when you ask them, what does money mean? Money means freedom. Okay, what does freedom mean? Now that's where when you dig couple of layers beneath, they start to understand themselves. So if I were to put that in a quadrant, people need only 4 things, at least in our experience. You could speculate. More money, more opportunity, more peace, and more mobility. That's all. We say we can and rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. All of us want something of each of these, but which one you want the most? We will optimize your tax for that rank number 1. Period. The real structuring journey happens after the 3rd call. We don't waste time on trying to give them options. This can be done. No. Because optimizing for more money and optimizing for more peace are completely different ball games altogether. It's like and I say tax should never be a hospital. Tax management should be a wellness spa. Because it should be trained to your body, and a tax strategist should be more like someone who gives you supplements and not medicines. So you don't come to us for medicines. We are here for supplements. Very clear conversation. So put that perspective, beginning with what matters to you, and optimize for rank 1, because you cannot optimize for more than 1 at a time. And then we begin the structuring journey. Then we get the subject matter experts if required. But our game in stack strategy is purely psychological, making them align with what they want. Then we will align with the governments who align with what they want. That's a different set, the second part of the game. The focus is all about you, what matters to you. Then we begin the game. That makes sense.
Makes all too much sense. I actually, I took a long hike the other day, and I was thinking about what energetically fills me up the most. And one of the things is having these spiritual discussions where we get down to people's truths, right? And I thought, how can I integrate that with my work? And I just hear the way you do it, we work together, right? I could have those same discussions with you at the beginning, right? Of because that's the truth, right? Like we're helping you grow with your social media. The amount of your involvement and the direction that we head should be in line with your personal vision. So anyone out there that's an entrepreneur, I challenge you to bring in the highest level of creation and spirituality into what you guys do. So thank you for that, Divakar. I want to talk about how you built the skill of some challenging the system. So people say everything is negotiable. I think some people either have never heard that or they heard it and they narrow in on money. Oh, you can negotiate everything. But you're negotiating principles and values, right? It's like, oh no, for those that haven't gone through like your course, like tax can be something that you make money on every single year. And I don't mean get a refund because you overpaid. That's not making money. I mean, you make money. You get more money than you spent at the end of every year. Some people don't think that's possible. And at some point, and I know a little bit of your journey, you just thought about diving into that and saw that that was possible. Is that a habit that you carry over to all areas of your life, or a principle, I guess?
See, I mean, that's where, Sean, I believe in one thing, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. Right? And in life, I believe in this three stages: knowing, doing, and being. So learning is for the cognitive brain. Doing is for the motor, where your neural networks are getting built. Being is where they are so set that that becomes your uh, steady state of existence. So if you start questioning the why, because over time you'll realize most of the systems in this world are built to not lose. They're not built to win. Huge difference. And that foundationally changes the purpose of existence. And which is fair, because systems are meant to ensure, you can say, the greater good, right? But the laws which apply for deers don't apply for lions. Laws apply for lions, don't apply for eagles. So you really need to understand who you are as a person and never make the mistake that an eagle should fall in line with that of a lion. Of course, they both live in the jungle, but they've got different rules which exist. So the biggest, again, going back to my conversation, is knowing what matters most. So if you see during COVID in 2020, 2020, I was having a fairly large team in India. For 5-6 months, we had no business, zero revenues. We still paid salaries. We never sent anyone home. We didn't cut even a single rupee salary to anyone. I lost 2 people. My CFO passed away. My very, very dear friend and mentor died. At that time, at home, and there was so much of negativity in India, and we had moved to a new home. We had done up everything. I'm a car guy, so I keep buying all these interesting vehicles. So we bought, I think, 3 or 4 vehicles. But there was so much of negative energy. That was misalignment. So when the skies opened up in 2 days, with 10 suitcases, 4 of us left India without a return ticket. And we went to Serbia. Why Serbia? That was the only country which would take Indians at that time. So we just landed there, no visa required. We were actually having, in the same world, in a different country. We didn't care. I wouldn't have had money beyond few months of existence, but didn't care about it. And going back to your conversation, money is energy. So then skies opened up, moved to Dubai. Life was never the same again. The orbits transcend, right? So going back to your question, I always tell my clients, I'm my audience. I've lived your life, been through 3 bankruptcies, today running a $500 million firm. Now, it all happens not because I was some super extraordinary or something. I never allowed fear to enter my head or doubt to seep into it. What is going to happen? Worst case, what is going to happen? I've seen that because my dad lost his vision when I was in my 8th standard, 8th grade. And from there, lying on a bed, he traded in the stock market. A family where ours was the richest to rags story. For the next 15, 17 years, he was alive. He was blind. My mom used to read the newspapers. He made money off the stock markets. And then we all settled, and then eventually he passed away. So that gave the confidence that you could be tested, but you're never defeated until you actually give yourself up. Right? So what's going to happen? As long as you are happy, you're pursuing what you believe in life is worthwhile. I would never want to live a moment in regret in life. And no one who's made money would ever, or I mean, because I work with billionaires and large 8-9 figure entrepreneurs. The biggest challenge when they have an exit is, first, they don't know what to do, and second, they end up doing all sorts of funny things for the sake of saving some few percentile points in their tax bill. It's so strange. These are guys who've taken so much of risk. And risk comes when you know nothing about it. But when you go prepared, there is actually no risk. They end up listening to what he's done. Imagine you building your home, designing your home based on what your neighbor has done or what your good friend in some other country is told. That's what they end up deciding on taxes, screwing up their lives, going and living in some godforsaken country for saving that extra 20, 30 million. Because 20, 30 million in standalone is a big money. But if when you have made 100 million, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Right? And then you won't be available to see your most important moments of your family. Then what matters to you in life? What? So when you actually start reflecting on life consistently and you be that person, and that's where even when I advise clients, it's being received for the simple reason that I'm not telling them to do something which I've not done myself.
Yeah.
So it's to answer your question, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
I love that example of just, maybe saving 20, 30 million sounds like a ton, but, the absolute value is a lot, but the relative value might be low to someone. The most important thing is not having fear, because that's playing life not to lose, and versus playing life to win. And it's not about winning, that's just a good colloquial term. But, I have found, when I see people that are the happiest, they're living, not to fit into like a box or do something. They're just living to live. And sometimes they do things that are not what people expect. Like, I know people that run businesses that just don't really answer email, and they don't really care, because they don't want to be tethered to a computer. Right. And they know that business might slip because of it, and they don't care, because that's not their number one priority. Or other people that miss deadlines. And again, we all, like, the most important people in this world, they hit all their deadlines or they're early. And, if you commit something to somebody, that's different maybe, but, people that just, they're too busy living to even know there's a deadline, and I think this, one of the themes here of challenging just like what we assume to be right, is really, really something that I'm taking away from this interview, Divakar.
I mean, I wouldn't even use the word challenging, Sean. Just being honest with yourself. That's all it requires. Nothing else. Right? I mean, imagine a child. A lot of my wisdom comes from interacting with my kids who are now teenagers. But the kind of questions which come when people do not have baggages, when mind is still not contaminated by the outside world, when their own layers of what is, because when you go back, you use the word principles, culture. So ultimately, culture, principle, religion, laws, all these are values. All these are decision rules, right? And you see it. What is a principle? What is a value? What is a culture? It's a decision rule. And the more you allow the rules of others beyond to impact your life, then you start becoming a prisoner of the society. And that's why, I mean, the only rules which matter to you should be the laws of nature and the laws beyond nature. Everything else is man-made, is your own illusion, what we call Maya in our in Sanskrit, or avidya, which is ignorance. So these are the only two. Anything beyond the laws of nature and laws of creation is a function of Maya and avidya, ignorance, and illusion. So I think that must be the only filter to allow it to permeate into your consciousness.
It's beautiful. And this conversation is very timely for me. I hope it was for you as well, because I've been feeling this deep yearn to continue to seek the truth and live by it, right? And not live by, I guess, Maya, right? Not live by rules that just somebody made up for some reason, and feel like you have to fit into the box. Like, just being authentic, and it's received, when you are, and there's no limit of energy when you are. It's funny. I've eaten all day before and had no energy, and I've not eaten for several days and had energy. It's like, energy comes from within, not outside.
I think even in Bible they say, right? Jesus said, "Man does not live by bread alone." So it's absolutely true. And why we had this conversation today? Now it's because you attracted it. It's because you were prepared for it. So otherwise they don't come. So that's probably the only message you are getting from the cosmos, and I'm only a messenger for this to receive, to reach this to you, because no creation, no thought, no idea is ever unique. It is already in existence. You just attract it. If you see, innovators are not people who create; they are obsessively attracting it. That's why it reaches them. Nothing else. And it's energy. It's obsessively putting all your energies in one direction. That thought will naturally find its way inside your consciousness. So you attracted it. Here we are.
Divakar, you have a great way about you. I'm so glad that your journey has led you the way you are, because I enjoy learning from you. I enjoy getting to interact with you. It's you really have a lot to share with the world. Maybe this is an angle we start going on social. We'll talk about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Divakar.
Thank you.